TRT World's defense analyst, Oubai Shahbandar, joins us now live in the studio. Thanks for coming in. So in spite of a UN-brokered ceasefire, there is now another round of fighting basically underway. Where does that leave the ceasefire? Is it null and void at this point?
Absolutely. We've seen a fresh round of fighting in the strategic city of Hodeidah, a port city that's essentially a lifeline for millions of civilians that are at constant risk of starvation. Heavy fighting took place earlier this week between the Houthi rebels and the UAE and Saudi-backed internationally recognized government, but the Houthi rebel forces. Now, what's important here is that this is the first time that we've seen this type of fighting in the city of Hodeidah since the December 18th ceasefire deal was signed between the two warring sides under the auspices of the United Nations. We've seen the United Nations has pushed back, trying to get both sides to come back to the negotiating table. The ceasefire that was signed in Sweden is considered an important stepping stone, a confidence-building measure that's supposed to eventually pave the way for a broader peace deal. Certainly, it's a very much a fragile ceasefire, as we've seen from the latest fresh round of violence.
And entering now its fifth year of this conflict, are there any signs that there's peace somewhere on the horizon?
Well, the UN Observer Force for Yemen is hoping that they can get both sides to agree to at least pull their heavy weaponry back from the city of Hodeidah. That would allow, at the very least, hundreds of thousands of civilians, if not perhaps millions of civilians, to reach much-needed food aid that the World Food Program and other civilian aid agencies are hoping to provide to civilians that are still trapped as the fighting rages in other parts of the country. So if both sides, both the government-backed side and the Iranian-aligned Houthi militias, can agree to, at the very least, pull back from the city of Hodeidah, that may save many lives, and that may allow the United Nations to use those confidence-building measures to eventually, hopefully, get both sides to sign a peace deal to end the fighting, where at the very least, the December 18th agreement between the two sides was a first step, but we're certainly nowhere near the end of this horrific civil war.
We're not. Okay. I was going to continue with one more question. I'm being told to wrap. I'm sorry. Oubai, thanks so much for coming in.